Hi, welcome back. It's Laura at Hyperstamper. I'm very excited. I was asked by someone to maybe think about doing another fairy junk journal, which are one of my favorite ones to do. So I pulled this dark-haired fairy here from this Flower Fairies book. It's a Cicely M. Barker illustration book. It is truly vintage. It is 53 years old, and the prints in them are just lovely. So I treated myself to make a cover on this very special journal, and I used one of these beautiful antique books here. This particular one is from 1904, and it's got this beautiful marbling on it, the leather corners and front side piece here and back sides here. The spine was not repairable. It was in too bad of condition, so I added a new spine and just covered it up here with some nice fabric that matches. And I'm very excited. So this is the Rose Hip Fairy here. As you can see, she is stunning with the butterfly wings, and I've got my vintage beads down the side here, and I am going to take you on a little journey and show you all of the authentic antique and vintage ephemera inside. Lots of the pages and inserts include fairy themes. So let's take a little look here. This is a very big journal. It's 6.5 by 9.5. This is actually from a Raggedy Ann book. So there's Raggedy Andy up there and all the little fairies here trying to catch him. I just think that is so sweet. I've got some antique paper here just to cover up all the text that was on the flip side of that page. Some feathers here from my yard because we've got the feathers here, like the feathery type wings, and I just think that reminded me of fairies. Some pretty trim here. This is from 1905 from the How to Grow Roses book. It's absolutely stunning, full color. It's actually not true color. It was colored by the original publisher. And we've got a little 1890s Guards Watchman there, just a pretty little piece. And some fun vintage fabric here, upholstery fabric and pieces. And then of course I chose this butterfly page because it looked very much like the wings of the butterfly of our fairy on the front. And that is from a vintage actually insects of North America, if you can believe it. Yes, so there we go. I just love that. This is a beautiful vintage page here from Through the Fairy Halls. Look at this gorgeous illustration, full color there. I love it. And then this here is a really almost a rare plate, and it is from the early 1900s, and these fairies here are called the leaf makers, and this is the home of the leaf makers, and it's absolutely stunning. And then in the pocket here I've just put another little book with antique cutoffs and the vintage papers there for journaling. This is a really fun piece here from the 40s, the Mischievous Mermaid, because we always have fairies, mermaids, and unicorns when we can find them. It's almost impossible to find unicorns because they weren't really a thing until more mid-century. So fun little storybook there. Here's just a beautiful postcard. It is gorgeous. It's got the people in the canoes here, this beautiful gazebo on the lake, and this is one of my oldest. It is from 1909, and so they're sending it to Kansas, USA. Now this is a beautiful Holden piece from also over 50 years old, so truly vintage, and it's just stunning, and I just wanted something really beautiful and pretty that I thought fairies would like to be in. Beautiful little moth up there. It's so precious, and that is from the Edwardian lady, Edith Holden's book. And then this is just an original piece here from the early 1900s. You can see the dates down here. It's from a German book. I just think it's really cool, and you can certainly journal on the front and back of that. And here's a really fun magazine page here. Look at more aprons. We did a lot of things about aprons, and look how fun these are. Isn't that neat? And this is from the 50s, but look at these wonderful trims here. Flowers, just wonderful ginghams. Back in the day when ladies wore the pretty aprons, I made these flowers out of antique papers, and I love this. I love to tell the story from a antique music sheet. And this came from an old book cover from an antique book, Poems to Remember. And I just turned it into a little waterfall piece here for journaling. And there's the original writings on. Somebody wrote on the inside of the cover. And then here, I don't know if you can see it, but we've got a little ring in the forest of fairies all dancing in a circle amongst the mushrooms. I just think that's so whimsical. This isn't fairy themed, but it's kind of fun because it's got the dragons and sort of fits in with that mystical theme. And then we've got just a fun little 1930s children's book page that I turn in both our antique journaling cards. This is a beautiful vintage doily here, handmade. One pocket on one side, and then just a fun cluster here. And this is great from the 1920s. We've got a race in Elfland. We've got all the little elves racing down here with the rabbits and the frogs and the squirrels down here. It's just a really fun piece. Roosters and geese. This is a beautiful piece, also a vintage needlepoint. Look at that, beautiful flowers. And then I turned it into a pocket and put these beautiful birds up here from an antique book, antique paper on the back for journaling. I'm so happy with this. And here's another 1927 piece here from the My Book House series. We've got the fairies inside of the lilies there. See 1, 2, 3 fairies there. Sometimes it's fun to find the fairies. If you go through this book with children, do the Find the Fairy game. I always recommend because they're just kind of hidden everywhere. Here's a 1956 music magazine piece. So not fairy themed, but really fun. And look at this, Frank Sinatra. Is that cool? Learn to sing and just a gal singer. So you want to be a gal singer. And I just thought that was a really fun piece. You can certainly swap it out and put in more of your own fairy ephemera or just enjoy everything in here. Look at this from 1927, The Elf in the Dormouse. Look at this little guy running off with his mushroom as an umbrella. Just, it's wonderful. And here's another wonderful fairy piece here. This little fairy down here. Wonderful little poem. This is just a lovely plate from 1904 from the English countryside. It just looked like it should have fairies living in here. And I just thought it was so pretty. Little pearl shop receipt from the 50s. And here is another little piece here. There's a woman here who is riding the dolphin or the fish, dolphin fish. And it's just kind of magical to me. Got the butterflies. This here is a vintage Avon stationery kit or like folio, and I just thought it was beautiful. I love how it's aged, and it's lasted very well over the last 50 years. This is also over 50 years old, so vintage as well, but I picked it because of the mushrooms. But it's a really fun piece, so whoever gets to own this journal gets all of these fun pages like of mushrooms and plants and flowers and animals, birds, cat. It's just awesome. It's an awesome piece. I was going to take it apart with the staples and use the pieces separately, but I thought it should all live together as it has for the last 53 years. Another little elf piece here to go with the fairy theme. And look at this stunning piece here from a vintage book, The Assembling of the Fays. Now, does that get any more beautiful? Just super, super beautiful. My gosh, I love it. And this one here is absolutely adorable. Look at this sleeping fairy here on the rock with the piper singing her to sleep. It's beautiful. And the little elves and the mushrooms. So much to look at in that image. I love it so much. And the great little story there. And this is just some vintage upholstery fabric with a hidden journaling spot underneath. This is a vintage Wildflowers of America page. And I chose it because I like the butterfly here again, the butterfly wings, but look at these glowing flowers here. And that just reminded me of glowing fairies in the forest. And then this one here, Toy Fairies Party. This is from the 40s. We've got the little fairy there from a children's story. And here, and this one here, that's the fairy queen there. And you can see all the little hidden fairies and elves in the grass. It's just so much fun to find them. It really is. I love it. And here's another one, Griselda and the Rain Fairies. And you can find all the little fairies there as well, coming down with the rain. And this is the original inscription in this book. Even though the book is from 1904, the inscription was made in 1918. I just love the script there. This is just a really fun little vintage educational card, the number 3. And this here came from a 1927 book. Here we've got a little tiny fairy speaking with an elf on a mushroom. And there's the back side of that Avon gift notes folio. This is very old. It is from the 20s as well. We've got this little guy here flying on his goose. And then over here we have these wonderful fairies. Look at nymphs, just spectacular. You'll really have fun there. And then here's the Dance of the Elves from a vintage book. And then I just made this pretty tag from a player piano box and some antique paper. And look at this one, this little girl who is dressed up like a fairy in her little fairy costume. I just think it's so sweet, as many of the little girls still do. Here's a wonderful an image up here. The dragonfly kind of looks like a fairy, and the little boy in the water there speaking to it. And then look at this one. This is so stunning. This is a classic print. It's actually from a vintage art book. You can see the fairies here. And then it says here the image itself was originally from 1914, and it is called A Midsummer Night's Dream. It's quite beautiful. And then we have this wonderful fairy here. Isn't she so pretty? Look at that. And then another fun story here with more elves. I believe that's the Elves in the Shoemaker story. Look at how fun. Isn't that great? And more fairies down here from the Enchanted Land. And some 1970s Chantilly lace vintage. More fun cluster. And that brings us to the end. I love it. I hope you love it as much as I loved making it. You can see all of my journals at hyperstamper.etsy.com. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.